Stars matter, and they matter a lot, specifically star rankings in recruiting. You know how you've got your buddy, or maybe you're the guy or girl who tries to sound like the most informed person in the room, and you try and overthink the room, and you try and say star rankings don't matter. Some kid commits somewhere, normally to your rival, 5-star linebacker. Oh, star rankings don't matter. Stars do matter. Stars do. I believe it was Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption that said, star rankings are a good thing, maybe the best of things. Colin is telling me that was hope. Hope was a good thing, maybe well, you know what? Both apply. I think tonight especially both apply. Star rankings mean a whole heck of a lot. You don't have to overthink the room on this. The reason I speak so informed on this is I used to be that person. I used to think star rankings are just a crapshoot. Look at this 3-star. He's started a decade in the league now. Obviously, star rankings aren't the end-all, be-all. Accurate. That line is still accurate, but they never throw that line at you. If you say star rankings aren't the end-all, be-all, I got no rebuttal. But if you say star rankings mean nothing, I got a whole lot. There's a nice, informative slider, for example, on the screen right now, if you're watching on YouTube, that explains at 24/7 Sports, for example, what a star ranking means. Let me dumb it down for you in this way, because I have to dumb it down for my own sake, not yours. What it's always meant to me is it's always this kind of raw, talent-based metric for trying to project how good a guy is going to be, while also categorizing how good he is in the here and now, coming out of high school. So there are things that takes into account. Height, weight, explosiveness, accomplishments, and whatnot, where you played, maybe who you've been recruited by. But there are so many intangibles that go into this thing as well that it would be impossible to project. I don't care who you are. I don't care what company you work for. There is a slice of the evaluation pie that you don't even bother biting off of. How could you know how a guy from the neck up mentally is going to acclimate to college life? How do you know what his injury concerns may be as a sophomore or a junior? So my point there is there's a lot that goes into whether you're going to be a first-round draft pick that no evaluator who's putting a star ranking on you can possibly know. However, that's not what we're here to talk about. There is a lot that people who put star rankings on you as a sophomore and junior in high school can know. And they're nailing it. They're nailing it. I've been of the opinion for quite a while that the evaluation and rankings processes in high school recruiting have never been more deadly accurate than they are now. And I believe that. And there are people doing good work at several companies out there that I think back that up. Let me just give you a very, very broad sampling of what the numbers just told us. 22 of 32 first-round draft picks this year were former blue-chip guys. I'm just going by the 24/7 Sports rankings. Pick whichever one you want to. It's going to look pretty much the same. 22 of 32 first-round draft picks this year were blue chippers. That means former 4-star or 5-star guys. 7 of them were 5 stars, 15 of them were 4 stars, 9 were 3 stars, and 1 was unranked. Our buddy Preston Guy covers LSU. I think he summed it up a great way. He put out the numbers. Basically, here's what it amounted to. If you were a 5-star recruit in the 2020 class, let's say, you were 9 times more likely to go in the first round than a 4-star recruit. If you were a 5-star recruit, you were 85 more times likely to go in the first round than a 3-star recruit. Did anyone say 3 stars can't go in the first round? Of course not. 9 of them just did. But there are infinitely more, hundreds more 3-star rated recruits per cycle than there are 5 stars. We have 32 of them per cycle here. And so when you account for the amount of 5 stars versus 4 stars versus 3 stars, then it starts to really bear out an honest picture. And that picture is, it doesn't seem like it's such the crapshoot that a lot of people make it out to be when you're ranking high school kids. So before I move on, because I've got a lot to say on this, trust me, I did want to acknowledge one thing. There is one thing the draft bore out the other night, over the course of 3 nights really, that I want to take time, I want to change the tone of my voice for a second. Hand over heart, I want to acknowledge not the Big Ten, but the Pac-12, rest her soul. The Pac-12 had the next most draft picks by conference behind the SEC this year at 43. What a way to go out. That's called a blaze of glory. What a way to go out. Oh, man, it's just such a shame that conference couldn't sustain itself. I'm sure it had nothing to do with inept year-over-year leadership. Oh, look at the Pac-12 on life support on the way out the door. What's that? Oh, wait, I'm hearing they had 43 draft picks, second only to the SEC. But yeah, absolutely. Let's let that conference fall into the Pacific Ocean. That's just the way the sport had to go, I guess. 10 of 12 schools with the most draft picks were Big Ten and SEC schools now and moving forward. So if that lets you know about competitive balance or lack thereof in the future of the sport, then yeah, that's probably a go-to stat. Just a couple of more noteworthy tidbits here, because in hand, when I talk about this thing with the NFL draft every year, I always love to go back in my mentions or go and listen to talk radio or any of a number of other shows that guys do out there. You know, SEC bias is an allegation that's thrown around a lot. And SEC bias, at its core, is simply an allegation that someone with a microphone, in this case me, is giving more coverage to the SEC than they deserve. They're giving benefit of the doubt to the SEC that's not earned. They're giving promotion to the SEC that they don't deserve, or attention disproportionate to the rest of the country that should not be divided up that way. And I've always asked people when they say that, not do you feel that way? Obviously you feel that way. I've always asked, do you think that's really true? They'll say yes, and I'll say, who all's in on it? And they'll say, well, the media. And I'll ask, does that include 32 NFL general managers? Because for the 18th year in a row, the SEC also had the most first-round draft picks in the NFL. So it's not definitive proof. Trust me. I got people in my life that are big into conspiracy theories, and every time you think you have them nailed, you find out it's like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall. So I'm sure I can present that to someone, and they'd find a way to wiggle around it. But it just is a pretty harsh indictment when you have to face the idea that according to the way you frame this, not only is the media in on the whole SEC bias conspiracy, the NFL is as well. And unlike me, I can make a prediction, and it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. I could come back and talk the next day, and the lights in the studio will be on, and it'll be fine. I may get made fun of, but it'll be fine. If those guys lose, they lose their job. They can't afford to be masquerading under the guise of SEC bias with their draft picks, can they? And maybe they can. I don't know. I'm certainly not trying to present general managers as infallible, because if you listened, SEC bias alert, if you listen to the way those folks anonymously talked about Spencer Rattler over this past weekend, did you guys hear that? The whole, we didn't like the way he presented himself as, checks notes, a high school kid in a Netflix show. We just didn't like it. What can I say about this? I've got immense respect for NFL scouts. I talk to them every Saturday on the field before games. I love conversing with those guys. I get some great feedback from those guys. So this is not a shot at them, mainly just the ones I don't know. I think there are some incredibly lazy narratives that just float around out there in the ecosystem, period. But man, some of the laziest come from anonymous draft types in regards to college football players. And it's like so obvious that you haven't paid attention. I'm not telling you Spencer Rattler's a perfect player. I'm not telling you draft him in the first round. But if you had reasons not to draft him in first, second, third, fourth round, please give me something better than the show he was on Netflix in high school. Dude, I thought Spencer Rattler acted like a punk back in the day. That was my perception of him from the outside. And I don't think that anymore. And it's not like I know him on an intimate, like, first-person basis. I've talked to him a couple of times. I've covered him. But I know a ton of people around him. And they all say the same thing. And I've observed him from afar. He doesn't feel the same to me as he did back then. And what a crazy environment we live in, wherein a 17-year-old kid could, in fact, mature between the ages of 17 and 21 or however old he is now. Anyway, I didn't plan on talking about that tonight, but the NFL draft, either in on the conspiracy or proving the conspiracy's wrong. I'll let you decide.